The Blessed Virgin Mary, in the incredible book, The Mystical City of God, to Venerable Mary of Agreda, warns her of the most dangerous distraction that she could ever face. And when I first heard it, I thought about it actually for days and even weeks. And as I sat with it more and more, and I let the Holy Spirit unpack it, I realized that it was the exact same advice that I had been hearing from some of the best YouTube coaches to YouTube creators. And I realized that it not only applied to the spiritual life, but also to YouTube creation. I'm going to explain exactly how that is. And from that, it applies to every single person. It's something that she wants you to avoid, and you have to hear it. So let's get right into it. Now, this is in Volume 1, page 464, number 550. In the context, it's just before the scene where the three kings arrive. Listen to this. My daughter, in the foregoing chapter, thou hast been instructed not to seek information from the Lord by supernatural means, neither in order to relieve any suffering, nor in order to satisfy a natural hankering of curiosity. That was the previous video, by the way. Now I exhort thee likewise not to yield for any of these reasons to the desire of performing any exterior action according to the promptings of nature, for in all the activity of thy exterior faculties and senses, thou must seek to moderate and subject thy inclinations, not yielding to them in their demands, although they may have the color of virtue or piety. I was in no danger of going to excess in these affections on account of my sinlessness, nor was there any want of piety in my desire of remaining in the cave where my most holy Son had been born and had been circumcised. Yet I did not wish to express my desire, even when asked about it by my spouse, for I preferred obedience to this pious inclination, for I knew that it is more secure for the souls and more according to the pleasure of the Lord to seek his will and the counsel and decision coming from other rather than from their own inclination. In me, this course of action was advisable only on account of the greater perfection contained therein. But in thee and in other souls who are subject to error in their judgment, this rule must be observed most rigorously, so as to prevent and avoid mistakes diligently and discreetly. For in their ignorance and pusillanimity, men are easily carried away by their feelings and inclinations towards insignificant things, and very often they occupy themselves with trifles as if they were important matters, and with vanities as if they were realities. All such activity weakens the soul and deprives it of great spiritual blessings, of grace, enlightenment, and merit. Now, this is halfway through the advice, so I want to unpack it. So the greatest distraction, the most dangerous distraction, she said it right here, and I know you didn't hear it, but it's our own inclinations. Now, let me connect this to kind of my experience with YouTube, and then after I read the second part, we're going to connect it to your own practical experiences. So the YouTube advice that is always given from some of the best YouTube coaches, they tell you ignore some of the useless details. The most important things in creating a YouTube video is to have a great idea, to give it a great title and a thumbnail, and then to hook people right in the beginning. Everything else is a waste of your time. The reason why they say this is because every YouTube creator, like a person like me, they get distracted by these silly things. Let me give you an example of some of the things that I got distracted by. I would get distracted by the type of music I had in the background, which some people like, but a lot of people don't. And I would spend hours trying to get it just right. Or I would get this one little picture in the video and try to make that just right. Or I would obsess over cameras and do I have the right lens and is it the right brand? And I would think about the lighting and does it need to be this yellow or darker or lighter? And I would obsess over these silly little details that actually have nothing to do with getting the message to you. Now, I first learned this with this one video I had. The first thing was, it was an incredible idea. It was an interview about a soul in purgatory that had appeared to Patricia Sandoval. And the interview took me an hour. The editing took me only an hour. Usually at that time, I was spending like 8 hours editing. And that video, I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything. But because it was such a great idea and the execution was just so simple, that was one of my most highest views videos at the time. And I saw I'm wasting my time in these other videos, spending all this time on things that don't matter instead of spending time on what really matters. And they try to hammer this home because amateur YouTubers don't know what they're doing and waste their time on silly little things. The exact same thing that the Blessed Mother is saying. Now, let's continue hearing what she has to say, and then I want to apply it to your own spiritual life as well as even to your regular life. Listen to what she says. My friends, I want to interrupt really fast to tell you about an incredible conference opportunity that is coming up right at the beginning of Lent. It's the Power of the Holy Face Conference on February 17th and 18th. More information right here. Sister Dee Dee Byrne will be there speaking, as well as Father Chris Aylar, our friend. So check this out and go to it. I'll possibly even see you there. This doctrine shall thou write in thy heart, together with all the others which I am to give thee. So write this in your heart. Seek to use it as a reminder of all that I did, so that as thou hast come to know it, thou mayst also understand and execute it in thy life. Take notice of the reverence, love, and solicitude, the holy and discreet fear with which I converse with my most holy Son. I always lived in this kind of watchfulness, and even after I had conceived him in my womb, I never lost it out of sight, nor did the great love which he showed me diminish it in me. In this ardent desire to please him, my heart found no rest until it was entirely united and absorbed in the enjoyment of this my highest good and ultimate end, excepting at certain times during which I rested in his love as in my sole joy. I invariably carried about with me this continual solicitude, like one who is restlessly pursues his way and who permits himself not to be delayed by anything that is useless or hinders the attainment of his desired object. So far was my heart from attaching itself to any earthly thing, or from following the inclination of the senses, that I lived as if I had not been composed of earthly substance. If other creatures are not free from passions, or do not overcome them as much as possible, let them not blame nature, but their own will. On the contrary, they justly incur the reproaches of the weak nature, because instead of governing and directing nature by the sovereign power of the will, they make no use of that power. They allow the natural inclinations to involve them in disorders, abetting it by free will and using the understanding to find still more dangerous occupations and occasions of ruin. On account of these pitfalls presenting themselves in mortal life, I warn thee, my dearest, not to hanker after or seek any of the visible things, although they may appear to thee necessary and most appropriate for the circumstances. Use all things, thy cell, thy garments, thy sustenance, and whatever else of this life, only in obedience, and with the full consent of thy superiors, because the Lord requires this of thee. And it is also my pleasure to see thee apply all things for the service of the Omnipotent. According to these great rules which I have given thee, thou must regulate all thy activity. So what does that mean? What is she saying? There, the presumption is that for her living in religious life, that the superior has this particular thing that he's asking her to do. Convert people, pray. He has a mission for her. And so in obedience to that mission, she's not to pay attention to things like her cell and her clothings and all these silly things that don't matter. But what matters is the mission. Us who are lay people, we don't have religious superiors. So who or what are we supposed to be obedient to? Now, I thought about this a lot, and here's the best answer that I can give you. We are supposed to be obedient to the mission. What is the mission that God has given us? To learn the faith, to practice it, to convert others, to love others, to serve others. That's it. Just like in YouTube, what's the mission? Make the best videos, title them awesome, great thumbnails, hook people, teach you good stuff. That's it. All the rest doesn't matter. Now, I might spend a little bit of time on some of those other things, that I look nice and have a nice shirt and all these other things, but it doesn't really matter unless I'm giving you incredible content. So if you're not converting people and praying and loving your spouses and your children, the rest is wasting your time. Let me get even more specific. For instance, let's say that you're praying the rosary. And what's the mission in praying the rosary? To pray well, pray with attention, and meditate deeply on the mysteries. The color of the rosary doesn't matter. Where you pray maybe doesn't necessarily matter. Maybe even who bless the rosary doesn't matter. But our minds wander and waste their time on these silly vanities or these trifles. We do this with all types of things. So we always need to ask ourselves, what's the mission? What's the thing that I'm supposed to be doing right now? That's what matters. And why shouldn't I pay attention to these other things. It's not necessarily strictly speaking about obedience. It's about the fact that we don't have unlimited time and we have to use our time the most effectively to convert as many souls as possible. It's very practical in its application. It's not obedience for the sake of obedience's sake. It's obedience so that we can complete the mission that God has given us. That's the point of obedience. So my friends, in everything that you're doing, ask yourself, what's the most important thing right now? And this other thing that's distracting me, does it really matter? Does the color of the thing really matter? Does this really matter? Maybe even the church that you attend to, does the priest really matter? Or does what matter most that I pay attention, that I'm faithful, that I am there full heart, full soul, giving myself to the Lord? That's what matters. My friends, as the Blessed Mother says, write this in your heart. And if this has been helpful to you in any way, please subscribe and like and support this channel through Buy Me a Coffee. I'll see you in the next one.